Welcome back, everybody. It's Talking Sports here on Channel 21. Today, we're focusing on the Triple Crown opportunity for Justify at the Belmont Stakes later this afternoon, and we're going to give you a rundown on the field. But first, before we do that, I mentioned the 25-year drought from 1948 when Citation won the Triple Crown until 1973. And any story about the Belmont has to include some of the most famous footage in sports history. In fact, Sports Illustrated said this was the second most impressive athletic feat of all time. It's never gets old. I love watching it. I hope you'll enjoy it. Secretariat, 1973, capturing the Belmont Stakes.
Secretariat is all alone. He's out there almost a sixth of a mile away from the rest of the horses. Secretariat is in a position that is impossible to catch. He's into the stretch. Secretariat leads his field by 18 lengths. And now Price of Prince is taken second. And Mike Gallen has moved back to third. They're in the stretch. Secretariat has opened a 22-length lead. He is going to be the Triple Crown winner. Here comes Secretariat to the wire. An unbelievable, an amazing performance. He hits the finish 25 lengths in front. It's going to be Price for second, Mike Gallen third, Private Smiles fourth, and Sam, who had it today, got back to fifth. An amazing, unbelievable.
He won that day by 31 lengths. Think about that. Now, lengths are based on the length of a horse, basically. So think about 31 horses back to the second place finisher. And his final time was the fastest Belmont ever. And let's do the math here. That was a lot of years ago, and no one has come close to matching that performance time-wise. It's still the track record, a phenomenal moment in Belmont history. Hopefully we'll have another one today as Justify tries to get it done in the race. Now let's talk about the horses that are standing in his way. There are 9 other eager competitors. Let's take a look at those now and run down that field as we get ready for today's Belmont Stakes. We mentioned Justify is number 1. The post position should not be a big problem with his early speed. Right next door, Free Drop Willie, who's not that fast out of the gate. He's just kind of a plotter. He runs for Dale Romans, a very good trainer. But I don't see Free Drop Willie being a major threat today. Maybe the kind of horse that will just get the distance and run third or fourth, maybe on the bottom of your wagers for the trifecta or superfecta. In number 3 spot is Bravazzo, who has really acquitted himself well. Ran well in the Derby and then really big in the Preakness, coming on strong for second in that race. He's trained by Hall of Famer D. Wayne Lukas, and Lukas has a sterling resume in Triple Crown racing, and 78 years old, one of the elder statesmen, one of the great ambassadors for the sport. Number 4, a horse you have to look at, Hofburg, for Hall of Famer Bill Mott. Hofburg is lightly raced. He came with a strong closing kick in the Kentucky Derby, but the mud and muck kind of compromised a lot of the styles of the closers. In horse racing, when you run on that kind of surface, you have so much being sprayed back at you in mud and water and everything else. And these are inexperienced horses. All of them are 3 years old. They haven't had a lot of racing. That's a lot to ask a horse to not only run from behind, but also to deal with all of that in the environment. So if we look at Hofburg here, he has had 5 weeks off since the Derby. He figures to come with a big effort. He's probably the number 1 threat as far as a stretch kick. If he can get the 1.5 mile distance, which is further than any of these horses that have ever run, he could challenge Justify late in the race. Number 5 is a horse that doesn't really have a whole lot of reason to be here. He's another Bob Baffert entry, and he really doesn't figure in the equation. Number 6 is Gronkowski, who will get some play strictly on the fact that he's named Gronkowski after the New England Patriots tight end. Gronkowski's been racing in Europe. He has won 4 races in a row, but he's never been on anything except for a synthetic surface, which is not grass and it's not dirt. It's kind of an AstroTurf, kind of a loose, there's different styles, but this is his dirt debut and his U.S. debut. I don't really see him as being a big factor here. 7 is Tenfold, trained by Steve Asmussen, third in the Preakness, another lightly raced youngster who is a horse to be reckoned with in this particular race. I think he's poised for his best career effort. Number 8, Vino Rosso, ridden by Hall of Famer John Velasquez for Hall of Fame trainer Todd Pletcher. Vino Rosso already won in New York. He captured the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct before the Derby, and he also was kind of a closer, comes from off the pace, didn't like the wet, sloppy track at Churchill Downs. He's the third horse in this group that I think has a chance to upset the apple cart. Noble Indy is number 9, another Todd Pletcher trainee, may show some early speed, but I just can't see him hanging in there for any better than the very bottom of the ticket. And rounding out the field is Shared Belief, the number 10 horse. And this is a horse that did very well in New York again on this same track at Belmont in the Peter Pan, which is a race that kind of serves as a prep race for the Belmont. But I just don't think he has the stuff to run with this group. In California, he wasn't up to the challenge of running with Justify and Bolt Duro and some of the other best West Coast horses. So I don't really consider him to be much of a factor in here. How will the race play out? You figure Justify is going to probably be in the early speed battle. I think Noble Indy, the 9 horse, is the likely other horse that's really going to try for the lead. Shared Belief, the 10, may also be involved in that early. It's the ultimate rider's race. It's a mile and a half. You don't know who really has the ability to get that extra quarter mile. The Derby and the Preakness roughly at well, the Derby is a mile and a quarter, a mile and 3/16 for the Preakness, just a tad shorter. Now we go on long straightaways at Belmont on a mile and a half, so it's going to be a real challenge for all of the horses. But the 3 that I mentioned are the 3 primary contenders: Hofburg, Tenfold, and Vino Rosso, the 4, 7, and 8. And we are going to get you ready with a wagering suggestion, because just picking the winners isn't all that's involved in terms of horse racing. You got to know how to put your play together. And when we come back from this break, we are going to go to work and see if we can craft a play to get you in the smiling line, because I'm telling you, you're going to have a great time today if you come out to Birmingham Greyhound Racing and get in the game with the Belmont. But you're going to have a lot better time if you cash a winning ticket. When we come back, we're going to see if we can help you do that. You're watching Talking Sports. Back after this.